like to start with? 296. We're going to go to the Red Book. $296. Well, there's a good one right there, $294. Just happened to be right next door. There's 5 verses. 5 verses, so if she drops one, you just keep right on playing. Okay.
I was actually in agreement with him this morning.
We do have an extra seat if we need it.
We have a what?
I said we have an extra seat if we need someone to come with us.
There's within my heart a melody, Jesus whisper sweet and low. Fear not, I am with thee, peace be still, in all and live and flow. Jesus, 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 sweetest name I know, fills my every longing, keeps me singing as I go. All my life was wrecked by sin and strife, discord filled my heart with pain. Jesus wept across a broken strings, surely down chords again. Jesus, 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 sweetest name I know, fills my every longing, keeps me singing as I go. Feasting on the riches of His grace, resting neath the sheltering wing, always looking on His smiling face, that is why I shout and sing. Jesus, 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 sweetest name I know, fills my every longing, keeps me singing as I go. Though sometimes He leads through waters deep, trials fall across the way. Though sometimes the path seems rough and steep, see His footprints all the way. Jesus, 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 sweetest name I know, fills my every longing, keeps me singing as I go. Soon He's coming back to welcome me, far beyond the starry sky. I shall bring the brides to worlds unknown, I shall reign with Him on high. Jesus, 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 sweetest name I know, fills my every longing, keeps me singing as I go. Next, another hand. Crystal.
304 in blue.
304.
Yep.
I heard you. I was just repeating because these folks down here can't hear sometimes.
They can't hear me.
It doesn't make a... I know, but sometimes it doesn't make a U-turn.
Yeah.
What page was it?
304.
Okay, thank you. 304. traveling through this world of sorrow. I'm on my way to glory land. I'll not turn back for some tomorrow. My trials here I'll understand. I want to know more about my Jesus. I want to know more about my Lord. I want to know more about that mansion I'm going to receive as my reward. I want to know more about that homeland. I mean to go there someday, somehow. And after I reach that heavenly city, I mean to know more than I know now. I'm glad I know the blessed Savior, for through his blood he set me free. Though rough the road, I shall not waver, for some glad day his face I'll see. I want to know more about my Jesus. I want to know more about my Lord, about that mansion I'm going to receive as my reward. I want to know more about that homeland. I mean to go there someday, somehow. And after I reach that heavenly city, I mean to know more than I know now. He promised when his soul ascended, I'm coming back, the Lord did say. If on his promise you're dependent, on wings of love you'll soar away. I want to know more about my Jesus. I want to know more about my Lord. I want to know more about that mansion I'm going to receive as my reward. I want to know more about that homeland. I mean to go there someday, somehow. And after I reach that heavenly city, I mean to know more than I know now. One more hand. Yes. Same book. 7-2. My horse was rearing on that song. I'll get him under control. Okay. It won't be very long till Jesus shows again. It won't be very long till Jesus shall descend, and then the dead of Christ shall let a day uprise, in meeting Lord and King and yonder in the sky. It won't be very long. It won't be very long till Jesus shall appear. That day is drawing near. Will lead a red to meet his ransom throne. Get ready for won't be very long. It won't be very long till he that cheers the Rome. It won't be very long. All the saints are getting home, and then the smiling face will walk the streets of gold and sing the Savior praising where saints are never old. It won't be very long. It won't be very long. That day is drawing near. You better live in. Get to the meeting, say to get ready for that day. It won't be very long. It won't be very long. It won't be very long. The burden will lift down. It won't be very long. We'll see virtue in the crown, and then they shout and sing with angels round the throne. When he will meet up there and know him as his own. It won't be very long. It won't be very long till Jesus shall appear. That day is drawing near. We're being ready then to meet the ransom throne. Get ready for that day. It won't be very long. It won't be very long till earth shall pass away. It won't be very long. The work of men decay, but Jesus shall prepare a happy dwelling place for who look above and trust His matchless grace. It won't be very long. It won't be very long till Jesus shall appear. The day is drawing near. Will you ready then to meet the ransom throne? To get ready today. It won't be very long.
Well, good afternoon. It is good to see everyone. Good to be here. Do we have any other prayer requests? We have quite a few to be praying about. It's good to see Sister Carol made it home, but let's continue to keep her family in our prayers as they're grieving. It's your cousin, right? Okay. So let's continue to keep them in our prayers. Also, we've got a few traveling. You can see the beginning of the caravan here at the church, so keep all of us in our prayers. So, and then let's keep Brother Corey in our prayers. Hopefully, go ahead.
I didn't hear from him, and he said he's feeling better, but I don't know how better, but that's good.
Okay, so he is feeling better, but let's continue to keep him in our prayers. Also, Sister Lillian, let's remember her. And then, the Keffers and their neighbors and actually family, Brother Steve's cousins and grandmother and all those. So, any others? Any others? Sister Hawkins is going to be, or not, yeah. Sister Hawkins is going to be traveling home a week from Monday, so we want to remember that. Any others? Okay. All right. If there aren't any others, let's all stand. We'll open up with a word of prayer. Brother Joe, would you lead us in a word of prayer? of announcements. Remember, Ladies Bible Study still on Wednesday at 10. And then there will be a Bible study Wednesday evening at 7. For those that will be here, bring a favorite verse or a favorite devotional or write something or writing or anything to talk a little bit about why that is your favorite. Then those that are going to be traveling, and just because we're traveling doesn't mean you can, if you have time to come, you're more than welcome to come. But there's a fellowship meeting in Roseburg, August 16th and 17th, so remember that, and everyone traveling. And then we've got our church Labor Day camp trip coming up. Remember the sign-up sheet in the back for food for that weekend. So be signing up for those things, and that Sunday will just be morning services here, and then we'll have lunch out on the grounds out there with services to follow. Okay? All right. If you'll open your Bibles to Matthew chapter 4. We have been going through and talking about the process in which we help each other grow, and we help how we can encourage and help spiritual growth. We've been looking at stages of the spiritual growth, along with what we've called the SEMD process, or the share, connect, ministry, and then disciple process. But before we get into this, I want to talk real quick and go through a review real quick of something. In Matthew 4:19, it says, "And he saith unto them, Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." Now, we use this verse to talk about Christ's desire and what Christ was trying to do to make disciples, and the definition behind what a disciple is. As we looked at this verse, one of the things we've identified three different things. First of all, a disciple is one who is following Jesus, and that's who we should be following. Second, a disciple is one who is being changed by Jesus, not changed by the pastor or some other tradition or religion, but being changed by Jesus. Then the second is a disciple is one who is committed to the mission of Jesus Christ. Now, as we have been looking at that definition and considering that definition, we find Jesus, as he ministers and leads his disciples, does Jesus take his disciples into a classroom and lecture them every day of the week? No. What he does is he uses things during their personal life and uses opportunities to minister to them, to teach them, and how they can be disciples. And so we've already talked about share. We've talked about the spiritually dead, spiritual infants, and how we need to share with them the gospel and share with them how we can grow and minister to them. We talked a little bit last week about spiritual children and connecting with them and helping them connect to God and getting to know God and have that deep, meaningful relationship with him. As we have looked at those things, now we are going to consider the third one, which is the ministry phase, or the spiritual young adults. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. I need to back up here for just a minute. As we think about this, I want to just kind of use the example of Jesus with his disciples. As they went throughout their day, what we find is Jesus, as he was striving to help them, as we look at what he was trying to commit them to, he was committing them to catch fish, or not to catch fish, but to go catch people and share the gospel with them. As he was doing that, as each step of the way, Jesus taught them to share with others, connect with God, or connect people to God, and minister to those who were in need. We see that throughout all of Jesus' personal ministry. He was sharing the gospel, talking to people, connecting with them, and then he would minister to them and help them grow in their ministry or in their spiritual life. The disciples were unique because he's trying to get them and help them to where when they come to the time when Christ leaves, he can leave them to where they can start making disciples themselves, okay? Jesus was going to leave. Who was going to make disciples? It wasn't going to be Jesus. It was going to be those apostles and those that were there with him, okay? So let's talk a little bit about the how Jesus trained the disciples in ministry. When we do that, a couple of things I want to touch on real quick. The stage, we talked a little bit about the stage of young adults. Spiritual young adults, their ministry phase and the discipleship process matches up well with the characteristics of the young adult stage, and here's how that works. Young adults, their heart has been changed for self to others. They are God-centered in motivation. Others' needs are more important, and they have a desire to serve and lead. So with that, as we think about that, we consider what that ministry does. We can equip them for ministry or service. We can provide opportunities to minister or service. And then we can release to do ministry independently, okay? Now, why is that one important? At some point, you can't baby them all the time, okay? A child becomes an adult, okay? What's the old saying? You got to cut the apron strings, okay? At some point, you got to let them go, okay? And so that's the same thing with a home, you know. I lived with my parents. Well, I can't say till I was 18 because I moved back. But I lived with my parents. When I was in my parents' house, I followed their rules. I did what they asked me to do. Okay? I moved out for a little bit, came back and lived with them for a little bit longer. Some things were different. Things changed a little bit because I was independent. And so there was some different rules and different things. One of those is I had to pay rent. That wasn't fair, but it was whatever. But anyways, there were some things that changed, okay? When you get out on your own, there was times they get out of here, go, get that, and I think they were praying more for me to get married than anyone else. So, because they were ready for me to be out of the house. But what we have, as I became an adult and as I started living on my own, their influence became less. Okay? Now, do they still have an influence? Yeah, I would say a small influence. But as an adult, my parents are not responsible for the decisions I make. Okay? I am. I can't go back to mom and dad and say, why didn't you help me do this? It's my own decision, okay? As a spiritual child and going into a spiritual young adult and then to parents, we have to be willing to let them go through those stages and let them become independent to start teaching and sharing the gospel with others. And one of the things we find is that what you're going to find is if you've done your job right, they're going to flourish and they're going to do well, okay? And you're going to see them grow and prosper and get closer to God as when they go out on their own, okay? So we'll talk about that a little bit more, but I wanted to make sure we understand that the idea of letting them learn and teaching them how to serve God is important because we want them to start doing it on their own, okay? When a disciple matures into a spiritual young adult, he or she needs training and opportunities to serve, okay? And so let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk and use the illustration of Jesus. John chapter 6, 1 through 13. This was a few months ago, we looked at this story, Jesus feeding the 5,000. As we look at that story, we saw how Jesus did a great miracle, but I want to look at it from the standpoint of the disciples, okay? And look at how Jesus worked with the disciples. And so starting in verse 1, and real quickly I want to read through the verses. It says, after these things, Jesus went over the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias, and a great multitude followed him because they saw his miracles, which he did on them that were diseased. And Jesus went up into the mount, and there he sat with his disciples. And the Passover, a feast of the Jews, was nigh. When Jesus then lifted up his eyes and saw a great company come unto him, he saith unto Philip, Whence shall we buy bread that these may eat? And this he said to prove him, for he himself knew what he would do. Philip answered him, 200 pennyworth of bread is not enough for them, that every one of them may take a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, saith unto him, There is a lad here which hath 5 barley loaves and 2 small fishes, but what are they among so many? Jesus said, Make the men sit down. Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down, in the number about 5,000. And Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed to the disciples, and the disciples to them that were set down. And likewise of the fishes as many as they would. When they were filled, he said unto his disciples, Gather up the fragments that remain, that nothing be lost. Therefore they gathered them together, and filled 12 baskets with the fragments of the 5 barley loaves, which remained over and above unto them that had eaten. Okay? Now, Jesus, during this miracle, and as he was showing and reflecting the power of his power, Jesus used his disciples to serve and minister to those that were around. Okay? How did he do that? As we look at the story, we find Jesus tells and looks to the disciples, and first thing he asks them is, where are we going to get some food? How are we going to feed them? Now, the disciples were human, and they struggled with looking at the big picture. And they're going, there is no way we can even get enough. We don't even have enough money to buy enough food for this many people. Okay? Now, I want to put some things in perspective. It tells us that 5,000, okay? Now, if you look at what it's talking about, that's 5,000 men, okay? Who knows if there was wives? There may have been. There may have been some kids with them. So we're talking over 5,000 people, okay? And I don't know about you, but that's a lot of people, okay, to feed. I don't know how we would do that. I don't know KFC would give us enough buckets of chicken to do that, okay? So, he knew that he was going to do a miracle. He already knew what he was going to be doing, okay? But he wanted to use this as an opportunity to teach them about service and ministry and what that looked like. So, first thing he does, he says, okay, disciples, Andrew, Peter, John, all you guys. First of all, I need you to get all 5,000 or more, and more, to have a seat. Now, they didn't have blowhorns at this time, okay? I don't know if they had a Sister Crystal. Or Brother Ron, okay? Peter strikes me as he would have a big voice, but I don't know. I may be surprised when we get to heaven. He may have a very small or very soft voice. I don't know. But, so they had to organize, they had to come together and figure out, okay, how are we going to get all 5,000 or more to have a seat and sit down and listen, okay? They had to get some attention. They had to get some work. So there was some work in having to do this. And so as they were trying to serve these people, they had to get some attention. They had to get them out there. Now, the second part about this that we see is that Jesus gives them the bread, gives them the food to distribute. Do you think there was some organization that had to be done with this? Yeah. So the disciples were going to have to figure that out and have to work together. We don't find Jesus giving them the answer. We find them, I believe they had to come together as a body, as a group, to figure out how they were going to get this accomplished. Sounds like church? Okay? So, they got the food distributed. They figured their job was done, right? We got the food out there, we got the fish out there, we got all this, and we're surprised that we got it all done, but it's done. Now, let's be honest, this was not just an hour type situation. We're talking about some time, okay? We took, an hour, or we had lunch and we had how many people? Maybe 10 people. We'll say 10 people, we had lunch. It took us, for all 10 of us, it took us about an hour to eat, okay? 5,000, okay? We're talking like half a day. Okay? But this wasn't just sit down, we're going to give you some food, here's the sandwich and go. We're talking about some time, okay? This was time out of the disciples' day, this was time out of Jesus' day. Remember, we talked about God's timing is perfect. Some doesn't always match our time, right? So being willing to serve God takes some effort on our part and takes some dedication. Now, the last thing I want us to look at, or I want you to think about in this story. Jesus then tells them, go get the remnants. Now, for me, I think it's interesting that 12 baskets came back. A basket for each disciple. I don't think I think there was a reason behind that. I don't know exactly what that reasoning is, but I think there was some type of reasoning behind that, because I think it's very significant that it was 12 disciples that were working to get those remnants out there. I kind of lean towards, I go back to what Brother Ron brought out in the lesson, talking about the elders and those that do the work and do the ministry are worthy of a double portion. I don't know. Am I stretching? I could be. But it could be. Okay? I think that those baskets could have gone back to the disciples, and they could have been using that for their own ministry as they were going out and starting to serve Jesus. I don't know. It doesn't tell us, so it doesn't really matter. And so, but we know that 12 baskets came back that were full. And as they served, as they did all these things, those disciples just did not, and this is the picture I think sometimes we get. Jesus sees this 5,000, he gets this food, and the disciples are sitting up on a rock going, "You go, Jesus." That's not what they're doing. They're busy. They are extremely busy, okay? They are having to do some work. Now, does service and ministry take work? Yes. It takes hard work, and it takes some effort on our part. We can't expect service and ministry to be done while we're sitting on these nice padded pews and watching the guy up there preaching. Okay? Ministry and service is done when we're out of here, outside of this building. Okay? It can happen while we're in here and while we're coming into the house of the Lord. But service and ministry is going to be things that we're doing outside of this and working with people. Okay? And so Jesus used this opportunity to train his disciples in ministry. We have looked at the feeding of the 5,000. We saw how Jesus was intentional. But as we look at how Jesus worked with them, the disciples served the people that day while they were learning a great lesson about Jesus, about who Jesus really was. They organized the groups, distributed the food, and gathered up the leftovers. Ministry was part of their discipleship process. Now, what are things that they may have learned? There's about 4 things I think they learned. First thing, we are responsible for doing something we are responsible for doing something about others' needs. Is that what the church's responsibility is? Yeah. Helping others and to meet their needs. The second thing we find that they have learned, we depend on God to provide for others' needs. God's the only one that can fulfill those needs. The ultimate need is, we know that if they have spiritually been born again and they are following him, we want them to not trust us. We want them to trust who? God. We want them, and we want to teach them how to trust God. Okay? Third, involving discipleship and ministry. Involving disciples in ministry is part of how Jesus made disciples. He shows his disciples how, and he used his disciples to minister to other people, so that way he could so that he can make them better disciples. When we invite someone to work with us and try to invite someone to help us as we minister to someone, what we're doing is teaching them how to minister to someone also. And so we want to make sure we do that. The other thing that I believe they learned is I learned things through serving that would be hard to learn just by listening. Okay? It's easy. Now, in the setting we're in today, it's easy for me just to lecture you. Okay? Now, how would you feel if I said I want everyone to sit around in a circle and I want you to wash the feet of the person next to you? No one, no one's saying anything. You're not serious, are you? Why not? No. Jesus did, right? Jesus washed all of his disciples' feet. Why? To serve someone else, to humble himself. Now, I'm not going to say let's sit in a circle and wash someone else's feet. I wouldn't want you to wash my feet because, yeah, my wife will tell you what happens if you do. So, I'm not a feet guy. So, but the thing that I want us to think about, and I want you to consider, service takes some effort on our part. We need to be willing to put ourselves out there to serve people. And service is not just something you learn sitting in a pew. I can tell you the best way to serve and learn how to serve someone is getting out and doing it. Okay? Rachel and Annie had the opportunity, this was back in Christmas, I think this last year, the food bank, no, the Ronald McDonald House. Rachel and Annie, last Christmas, her and her coworkers and the kids, I don't know where I was. Oh, I was hunting. My exciting things to do. Anyways, they went to the Ronald McDonald House and they prepared a meal and served it to all the families that were there at the Ronald McDonald House. And one of the things I wanted to find out from Annie was, what did she learn? And she learned how to serve, how it's important to put other people's needs before ourselves at times. And those people were very appreciative of the willingness that they took to go take time out of their night to go and prepare a meal and prepare dinner for them. And they left, I saw a glow on Rachel and Annie's face from going and doing that, and they really had fun. So, we can talk about serving, but until you've actually done it, you don't really get the full effect, okay? So going out and helping someone else, even helping someone do yard work or doing something for someone that maybe didn't ask for it. I'm not saying go to the Ronald McDonald House and go to a homeless shelter or anything like that. What I'm saying is putting yourself in a position where you could serve someone and not doing it for your glory, but for God's glory, okay? And putting their interests above yours, okay? And so it's important that we think about that. The other What did the disciples not learn? Okay. First, only miracle workers can be involved in ministry. Ministry is not just the pastor's job. It's not just the deacon's job, or the deacon's wife's, or pastor's wife. I don't know why I put you last all the time. I should change that up. It's all of our job, right? All of us are to be ministering. We all have an opportunity to where we can help and we can serve and we can point people and help them and serve others. We serve others to make us look important. Don't ever do it for that reason. We don't want to ever do it for that reason. That's what the disciples did not learn. They found out that what they were doing was to give God the honor and the glory. He was going to be the one that was going to receive that glory. The last thing, and this is one I think we struggle with, and I think we, because of our insecurities, service has to match directly to my spiritual gifts or I can't do it. That is a false statement, okay? I think we all have the ability to serve in some way, okay? It may not match your spiritual gift, but you can still do it, okay? I can't give you an example, but we can. I know we can. I've seen all sorts of people. I've seen, we all can have opportunities to serve in our own way. And how we do that and how we share those things, how we do that, it's up to us to put ourselves aside. Serving is really just the idea of putting someone up before yourself. And if we truly look at what the commandments are, love God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your mind, what's the second one? Love thy neighbor as thyself. And if we love that neighbor, we're going to want to minister to them. And we're going to try to do what we can to help them and serve them or show them Jesus Christ. And so we want to make sure, don't let anyone tell you, well, my spiritual gift is not talking to people. You may not be able to talk to people, but you can still have a witness. Okay? But I remind you, we all have a testimony. We all have a story. We all have something that we can do. But let's not just talk about salvation. Let's just talk about maybe there's someone younger that needs someone to come alongside to help them. I am thankful, and I have been blessed by the relationships that have been built with my daughter and some of the church members here, okay? Now, I'm going to call out one person because it just goes along with what I want to talk about, but everyone has had an effect. But one of the things I've noticed since she's moved here is Sister Carol and Annie have a bond that is amazing to me. And I don't know that she realizes the service and the ministry that she, and the effect that she has on my daughter. And she talks about Sister Carol at home. She talks, and when she's gone, Annie says, "Where's Sister Carol?" And so there's a bond there, and there's a relationship. Now, is that service? Yeah, that's ministry. And so don't think just because you can't talk, you can't help or you can't minister to someone, okay? And so, now, I don't want anyone else to think that I'm not trying to single her out, okay? I hope she doesn't think I'm picking on her. Because I think everyone here has had an effect on Annie, and I know I'm picking on Annie, and so, but I think that's one of those things that we don't often recognize those things, and we don't share those things the way that we should, because I think she's got great teachers. She's got Sister Rena, and whenever she wants to ride a horse, she can call the Keffers and she can go right over there, and there's ministry there. okay? I think everyone has an opportunity. She comes over and she helps now I'm going to just tell everybody, Sister Cindy comes over. I don't know, I just don't want to be prejudiced. I just like everyone to get along, okay? All right. That's my weakness. Okay. But I think you get where I'm going with this, and I think you understand that service and ministry comes in all forms and shapes and sizes. Don't think that you don't have the ability to serve. You do, and you can. Just try to find something. We had someone come to me this morning and said, I'd like something to do. All right, I'll find something for you to do. And we'll see what we can do to help you out so that you feel like you can serve and worship God. And so let me know. If you don't feel like if there's more that you can give, let me know. And we'll definitely see what we can do to find something for you. But serving God, and as we look at this and as we're training people, we want to make sure that we are giving people the opportunity to serve. Because serving in ministry, like I said, it's not just sitting in a pew, it's helping them. We see how Jesus shared with spiritual infants, he connected with spiritual children, and he actively trained the disciples to minister to others. And so as we see that example of him feeding the 5,000, Jesus gave the disciples hands-on experience in learning to care for others. Jesus got his disciples, and he got them in there. He got them involved, and he got them part of what he was doing. So they got a first-hand experience of what this looked like. They did not sit on the outside and watch Jesus. Jesus valued their involvement and used it for their growth as disciples. And so he used those opportunities to share and to train them. Now, real quick, I want to just touch on this. A lot of times we train people the way we were trained. Okay? Now, some of us had to learn through the school of hard knocks. Okay? What do I mean by that? They pushed you out into the pool and said swim. And watched. Right? Some of us had to learn that way. In some ways, I had to do that as a pastor. There were some things that you just don't learn until you're in the middle of it. And you just have to learn how to do it. But for me, what I have done is use those examples or use those experiences to know how when I talk to people, I want them to understand that I want to give them the opportunity to learn and serve. And so I'm sure we all have experienced bad ways. I guess that's the best way to put it. Bad ways in learning how to serve and minister. But we all have experienced good ways. And so use those experiences to share and help others minister and serve God. Okay? And teach others how to serve. Let's see, where are we at? All right. Finally, okay, this is my conclusion. As we look at these things, as we look at these growth, we've talked about sharing. We've talked about how Jesus shared the gospel with his disciples. He shared not just with his disciples, but with everyone he came in contact with. He connected with people. We saw that through the story of the woman at the well. He used something that she knew. He connected with her. He shared the gospel with Nicodemus and talked to him about it. Ministry, we see how Jesus modeled and talked and trained his disciples with real life experience. Discipleship is exactly the same way. Sharing, talking to them and connecting with God, and then using things in our real life that can help us grow in our relationship with God. Final question that I want you to think about, and you can take this home. What are some things that you like to remember to do in ministry to make a disciple. Okay, think about that as you go home. What can you do more? Can you help someone? Is there someone that you can reach out to, that you can minister? Is there someone that you can share the gospel with, or someone that you can, and really throughout the whole process, is there someone that you know that you need to share the gospel with? Is there someone that you can point and connect them with God more? And so as we look at those things, in a few more weeks, we're going to talk a little bit more of how we do these things and how we can do this and do it effectively to where we can help people grow in their relationship with God. Okay? All right. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. If there is nothing else, let's all stand. Want to thank everyone for being here. Remember, there is going to be Bible study on Wednesday.